Hello and welcome to Let's Live Change. I am Miss T Slash, and we have a special guest, Thad Jackson, here today. We're going to be talking about surviving diabetes. Thad is a diabetes type 2. He was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes. How many years ago was that?
5 years ago.
5 years
Yes.
ago. And he took that diagnosis in his hands and reversed it, being able to avoid pharmaceutical medicine and things like that by changing up his diet. Let me tell you a little bit about that. That is a businessman. He is a Godpreneur. He doesn't call himself an entrepreneur because he says his business belongs to God. It was organized, built by God. It's run by God. The success of the business is because of God. So he calls himself a Godpreneur, which I think is really cool. He's a musician and a producer. He's played with the Emotions, George Clinton and the Parliament, Funkadelics. He's a proud father and grandfather, and he loves the Lord. But most of all, the reason why he's here today is because he survived diabetes. And so I wanted him on the show so that he could walk through his journey of what he went through, the diagnosis, how he felt, the different emotional roller coaster, that most people who actually receive that diagnosis, what they go through, the pros and cons about, and the sacrifices that he's made. And so, Thad, go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience today. I thank you for being here. And so we're waiting to hear some good things from you.
Well, thank you for introducing me. I'm just glad to be here. This is something that God blessed me with in terms of wellness. I've been taking up wellness research, and I was blessed to lead my church in the health ministry as well. So I've had a practice field and a platform to work with my congregation and the Sabbath school over at Living Waters and here in Dallas, Texas. Yes. And it gave me time. It just gave me time and concern because I feel like if everybody was aware that you could take responsibility for your own health. I mean, we depend too much on the doctors and the medical association and just lean on them for the next advice, the next prescription, the next thing to do. And it's time for us to soldier up and take care of our own temples. I mean, everybody should be able to admit that our temples are on fire. These temples, these bodies, they belong to God. They don't belong to the medical association, all right? So some kind of way, if we just had a little prayer to ask God what's to do next and where to go, and that's how I initiated my reversal. It was nothing that I did individually. It was something where I had to pray and cry out for.
So tell me, were you feeling some kind of way or tired, sluggish? Do you have any symptoms, or you just went for a regular checkup and the doctor was monitoring you or whatever?
Yeah, it's funny, we as people of color, we're not too fond of going to the doctor in the first place. And but I finally got into the realm of doing yearly checkups. And one of my labs came back saying that I was pre-diabetic. At the time, I was about 270 pounds. And when the doctor told me I was pre-diabetic, I was like, everybody else, it can never happen to me. That's not going to happen to me, It's not going to happen. So went back the following year, and that A1C level had bolstered up to like 6.9. And that's when the doctor let me know. He says, you're now type 2 diabetic. And at that time, I basically was in denial about it. I didn't even want to hear that. I didn't tell my family, didn't tell my closest loved ones about it. I just kind of shouldered that whole burden. I didn't change my diet. The doctor said, you need to go talk to this organization or some kind of class or something so you can teach you about diabetes, so you can start trying to, live your life so you don't go from a type 2 diabetic to being a diabetic where you need to have insulin. I was on the metformin. And
so were you taking the metformin?
Yes, I was taking the metformin. I took all the meds.
Okay.
I just stayed in denial about my state.
But you took it just in case
you
were wrong.
I took it. I took his advice, but I still didn't. I didn't. Like I said, take responsibility for my own health.
Right.
And one day I was driving along. I have a trucking company, Bobtail Specialties Freight Services here in Dallas, Texas. And I got a little blurred vision on my left eye, and I had numbness on my left foot, and I started feeling the symptoms of what diabetes can do to your body if you just let it go out of control and I mean, the metformin, that's not the solution. That's just the temporary fix. You're still riding around with your light on your head, on your dashboard. Everybody's got that check engine light, and we're still driving our cars. Well, eventually, a check engine light is going to make the car pull over. And that's exactly what happens when you take pharmaceutical drugs. You're still riding around with your check engine light. There's no cure for your condition just on. It's a temporary fix anytime you're on any kind of pharmaceutical drugs. And I kind of cried out in prayer, and I was asking God to fix this for me, because I know He's always been my higher power. Higher power has always been there for me, and I couldn't go back to the doctor because I didn't do what He'd said to do, and didn't really have anywhere to go. And all of a sudden I got a phone call one day, and somebody said, "I can help you reverse your diabetes." And I was like, "What?" He said, "I can help you reverse it." So I went down to their little presentation, and the first thing they did was, show a video with you getting your toes cut off and people going blind, and they pulling cholesterol that's out of people's hearts and surgery, just all the things that can happen to you if you don't adhere to reconstructing your temple, just taking responsibility for your health. And I found out the key was nutrition. So I go see the nutritionist, and the nutritionist says, "Listen, if you leave these foods alone here, and you just eat these foods right here, give me about 4 to 6 months, we can change your diabetes. You can reverse your diabetes." And I was like, "What?" And she's like, "Leave these alone. It depends on how faithful you are to leaving these alone." All right. Well, it turns out that the things that they asked me to leave alone were the things that were ruining me and wrecking my body. It's also those common things that we eat every day, not knowing that these things are destroying our bodies. It's also the same set of foods, which I'm going to name in a little bit. They're the same ones that are responsible for cancer, for hypertension, dementia, just all the diseases, because they're not the foods God intended for us to eat in the first place.
So it's funny you said that, because when you came in today, you brought a pamphlet, a booklet that he made for his church congregation.
Right.
And you do a nugget every Saturday, Seventh-day Adventist Church.
Yeah.
And so I was looking at this, and what it says here, it says, the key to eating healthy is a question. Avoid any food that has a TV commercial. It talks about protein, rich foods, legumes, eating your water, protein rich, no protein powder needed, for the chia seeds, the flax seeds, the hemp, cruciferous veggies, foods just rich in iron and magnesium. And so what was so interesting about this book is that when I changed my lifestyle, this is how I eat. And I'm a cancer survivor. And so whenever I go to the doctor, I'm a clean bill of health. I go just to get my blood work done, and they check everything. And for the last 4 years, I hear the same thing. Keep doing what you're doing. You look great. Your skin looks great. You look great. I don't know what you're doing, but you look great. And this is what I do. Now, I'm a chocolate lover. I try to stick with dark chocolate. And it's hard to pass up my mama cakes and pies sometimes during the holidays, so I give a little room, to kind of mess up. That's my mama's food. I mean, it's good. I've been eating it all my life, but I do practice discretion, and discipline. They have developed a discipline about disconnecting from my food, meaning when I'm looking at that food on the plate, if it's fried chicken or fish or whatever the case may be, it could be bad. What I do is I've conditioned my mind to think about how that food was produced, where it came from, the soil that it grew in, and all of those things. And when there's this block of bad, it helps me to disconnect from that food and say, I don't want that. Because anybody who has dealt with chemotherapy, I'm going to tell you something. It brings tears to my eyes now just to even think about some of those hard days that I had. And I really didn't have hard days like some of my girlfriends and people that I've met along the way have. To the point to where they're barely walking. Just innumerable number of side effects. And it's amazing that the key to fight any disease is this.
It's diet. It's diet. It's really simple because, okay, so let's go over some of the foods that you want to avoid and some of the foods you want to go to in trying to reverse your diabetes. One of the hardest things for me was bottled juices. Because that's so convenient to get a bottle of juice, open it up, and just drink it straight down. But those sugary drinks, they'll take you out, okay? Anything white, all your white potatoes, your white pasta, your white rice, those things have starches, and those starches turn straight into sugars. So I had to give up all the white stuff. There was also boxed cereals. We all think that oatmeal is really good for you, right? And oatmeal and boxed cereals were on the list as well. Coffee, all your creams, dairy, oh my God. I found out that cow, I understand why they call it the mad cow disease. Mm-hmm. Because if you get any kind of mad cow in you, the first 6 items of acidic foods are beef, butter, ice cream, yogurt, and those 6, they all come from the cow. They all come from the cow. Mm-hmm. All right, and I just, there's a lot of people that don't eat beef, but they still eat dairy. But the dairy had to go too. Mm-hmm. All right, so you leave these foods alone. Give me 4 to 6 months, and they gave me a list of foods that was the vegetables and the alkaline foods that God wanted us to eat in the first place. Mm-hmm. All right, and I was able to reverse the diabetes in about 4.5 months because, she says, after you reverse your diabetes, you can go back to those foods once a week. And I kept telling myself, why would I ever want to go back to something that ruined me in the first place? And then I lost over 50 pounds, in terms of, and this is the first time I've ever been able to keep my weight down without going up and down on the weight.
Yo-yoing.
Yeah, just roller coaster over and over again. And then I learned in more research, the body is a magnificent machine. We watch our fingernails and our hair grow all the time, but you get new skin every 28 days. Yes. You get a new liver every 5 months. You get new bones every 10 years. So if you're eating Twinkies, Ho-Hos, Ding Dongs, and Pop-Tarts, what is your body going to be made of as your body regenerates itself, So that's one of the reasons. So it's about awareness, first of all, that's this diet. Like you said, the fried chicken. I say to myself, God, let me eat fried chicken for 60 years. I don't need it the rest of my life. You know what I'm saying? So
it's some good stuff.
I know it's really good. I had a great time with it while I had it, but now
the love affair is over.
Yeah, my body is not going to break it down anymore. And that's what people don't understand. You have to make that adjustment. When you have an older car, you take care of that older car because it's a vintage car and it's a classic. At 20 years, it's a classic. So you take care of it it a little bit better than you do when it's newer. You know, you change the oil, you change the parts that need to be going. You know, you replace the parts, you keep it shiny, that kind of thing. You have to do that with our bodies as well.
That's correct.
So we'll keep eating the same diet, expect this body to break it down, and then take the meds to help us keep going through. But the meds are breaking you down.
Wow. So what was the hardest thing about changing? Because, I mean, I could say, hey, yeah, I just woke up one morning and I didn't eat, well, I hadn't had beef for 15 years. And that was because I was working out. I had gone kind of vegan, vegetarian. And in about 6 months, I hadn't had beef. And when I ate it, I mean, it made me sick and I never wanted to go back with it. I'm that type of person. I can have a very bad experience and just, I don't want it anymore. It could be like that with a relationship. I don't want it anymore. So it's just that cut and dry for me. Everybody doesn't have, they don't function that way. You know, sometimes it's like, I start tomorrow. How, I mean, what was it that got to you mentally? Because like I said in my last show, healing starts in the mind. What was it in your mind? What did you think about your children, your family? You know, did you think about the fact that, hey, I still have a lot of life to live? God has purpose for me. What was it that helped you condition your mind to stop that? And was it cold turkey, or did you have to gradually change things out and kind of like get to where you are right now?
Well, yeah, you got to flip that switch in your mind, because I call it the oh shit moment. You know, you got to say, oh shit, it's time to change this thing up. Okay, and right, I had a life, grandchildren were coming. So other people are getting toes cut off and going blind, and the idea that some people stick themselves in the stomach with insulin. You know, I didn't want to get to that phase. So it was a good fear. It was a healthy fear that, you know, motivated me to stick with the program. I've always been pretty headstrong. I just didn't have a direction, didn't know where to go. A lot of people don't know that you can reverse most of these conditions through diet, or even holistically, or even getting the right kind of herbs to deal with. I mean, that's what Dr. Sabi's ministry was all about, you know. Yeah, and so if you would take the time to take responsibility for your own health and stop leaning on the doctor. Yeah, I mean, I love my doctors, but at the same time, their whole profession is the practice of medicine.
That is correct.
That's the same thing the shade tree mechanic does on your hoopty. All right? He's practicing.
Sometimes he may get it wrong. He may misdiagnose.
Right.
And doctors too, people want to sue, but at the end of the day, they are practicing.
They're practicing. That's why he says take two and call me in the morning. Let me know how that works.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that that's why most people don't believe their diagnosis, because they think their doctor has made a mistake?
Exactly. Especially when they wake up in the morning and haven't had any change yet. And then you got to go back to him again, and he's got to try something else, or a different kind of medicine, that kind of thing. So he's practicing. But at the same time, that whole practice doesn't cure anything.
Correct.
I have cured my condition through diet. And where I could have stayed on metformin and just waited till the next phase, my body break down one more time. Now I need insulin, and I need to stick myself in the stomach before I go eat. I was like, no, I'm not doing all that.
I have a question for you about that metformin. I'm going to give a shout out. We're just going to do a shout out to Kelly Coding Solutions, LLC. She can help everyone with their business needs, entertainment and personal needs, personal assistant needs, resume writing, bookkeeping, promotion management, social media management. She can be contacted at 682-344-4644, or Kelly with a K, Kelley, coded KOATED, solutions@outlook.com. So hit her up. She's very good girlfriend of mine, but she's very professional, on time, and does great logos and things of that nature. So please give her a shout out. You can find her on Facebook under Kelly D. Lewis, KELLEYD Lewis. About the metformin, do you take that metformin up until the time that the doctor said you were not a diabetic, or did you kind of like after you started to change your eating? Because I know there are people who have loved ones who are listening, who are dealing with this, and they're afraid to stop taking that medicine. It's all about faith, and it's about fear, it's about trust, and it's about I don't know. You know, you just kind of tiptoeing. You hear that it can happen, but you don't know the process of how that person did it. And so that's why I'm so interested in knowing you were diagnosed. You got the metformin. You started taking it. You got a phone call. You realized that you should change your eating, right? But then when you changed your diet, how soon did you stop taking it? Was it all the way up until the doctor said you're no longer diabetic?
Was first of all with the checkups, like I said, we have to learn how to take responsibility for our own health. So I learned the numbers on the A1C, the lab numbers. So right when I was around 5.9, I was pre-diabetic. When I got up to 6.7, I was type 2 diabetic. Anything above 7.5, you're a type 1 diabetes, all right? So as I started the diet, leaving those foods alone and finding me a whole new set of foods to enjoy, I did labs each month, and the numbers were coming down.
With the medicine?
With the change of diet. Oh yeah, I was still taking the medicine.
Okay.
I was still taking the medicine. And then when I finally got below 5.9 to about 5.7, that's when the doctor says, congratulations, you're no longer diabetic.
Wow.
And it just, and so I still go 3 times a year just to make sure I don't have the lab work at home, and I'm not sticking myself, but I go take my own lab. And the last lab I did, I was at 5.6, and I'm just eating the way I like to eat, and I'm
so what do
free.
you eat? Like what is it? Are you vegan, or are you?
I'm a little mix of vegetarian vegan. I did finally get away from the beef and the chicken. I've never been a pork eater, and the reason why I got away from the beef and the chicken was because I found that diabetes does not come from sugar. That's what the myth is. Too much sugar, now you're diabetic. No, sugar is actually good for you. Sugar is what the athletes used to do back in the day, would have a Snicker bar in their pocket before they run a track race or something like that, because sugar actually fuels the body. It was just the fatty meat and the high cholesterol foods that I was eating that cover the red blood cells in your bloodstream. So once these red blood cells are coated with all of this cholesterol, now the sugar can't get into the blood cells in order to fuel your body. So the sugar stays in the bloodstream, and that's what makes you insulin resistant. So I changed the diet, and kind of took me about 1.5 years to get away from the meat thing. But at the same time, you got to realize when you get up here, get in your 60s, it's time to kind of change the point. That's the reason why you go to IHOP and they got the senior menu. The senior menu, they got the half portions. It's just time to change. You just can't have Thanksgiving every time you get ready to eat. You know,
breakfast, lunch, and
dinner. Yeah, you can't pick out. It's time to move that diet around a little bit and work with that body, because you can feel it. You know, so the process is maybe just 1 day a week, have a no meat day. And then when you wake up that following morning, the body says, oh, I feel a lot better. I didn't eat that meat that day. And then you go right on back to your fried chicken and your beef sandwiches, and then have that next no meat day. And the body says, oh, I feel good. Let's try 2 meat days, no meat days, and then you go through that whole process. It took me about 1.5 years. Okay. But to go back to the question that you asked, I'm into an alkaline diet. I'm finding all kinds of foods and vegetables at the Asian stores, and
that's where I shop.
and you're finding out that God had a whole nother regimen for you in terms of diet and food choices. And like that says, anything on TV is not good for you. If it's on TV, it's not any good. Yeah. So watch this. If you're still ordering your food on the intercom in the drive-thru, You gotta get out. You gotta get out the intercom. If you are still going to a restaurant that has red on the building, all right, you gotta stop going to these restaurants that have red on the building. If you're still going to a restaurant where you have a clown for a mascot, a clown, Ronald McDonald. Wait a minute. First of all, let's deal with clowns.
Or the king.
Yeah, or the king, or the little Wendy's girl, or Jack in the Box. Okay. Let's talk about a clown. Clowns are there to fool you. They're not to make you happy.
Hey.
The first thing the clown does is lean over and squeeze that flower and squirt that water in your face. And he's got a mask on so you can't tell what he's doing. They're there to fool you. So all of these buildings with red on the outside that have intercoms in the driveway that have clowns for mascot have been fooling us for years.
Yes. And those McDonald's fries are everything.
They have 29 ingredients. No, 19 ingredients. Wow. Google how many ingredients in McDonald's French fries, and your Google will tell you right now 19 ingredients. French fries are only supposed to have potatoes, salt, and oil. That's it. So that'll let you know if they're doing that to the French fry, what is in the chicken McNuggets.
That's right.
And let me tell you something.
And that McRib.
Oh, the McRib. The McRib is back for the holidays, right? Let me tell you something. And just as quick, we talk about red on top of the on the outside of the restaurants. Your Applebee's, your Chili's. I know you're not liking me right now. Your Olive Gardens, your TGI Fridays. Those are just fast food sit-down restaurants. Yeah. They still have the same food that's coming in a box in a two-wheeler, on a two-wheeler. All right.
And then you know what? We have not even tapped into alcohol because the holidays are coming up. You know, it's a time where people, they celebrate, cheer, and all that. I do too. I love wine. I don't drink it a lot. I don't drink it often, just occasionally. I've always been an occasional drinker. But more so during the holidays is when we really kind of get into drinking and celebrating more. And I know that you and I were talking and you were saying you read a study that says during the holidays, the physicians already determine how many patients, they kind of do statistics of how many patients they expect to see after the holidays because their blood sugar is out of whack, their high blood pressure is out of whack, you know, their diabetes, if they're diabetic and they're on medication. I mean, it's just everything is out of whack because the holidays we go overboard because we're celebrating. And why we celebrate? We're celebrating.
Feasting.
We're feasting.
Traditionally.
Yeah, traditionally feasting when the celebration should be life, should be family, should be getting together and really enjoying it. So I'm thankful that you came on the show. We're going to have another Surviving Diabetes show because we're going to do juicing live and we're going to use our food processors to show how we can create healthy juices. I'm a juicer girl. I really love juicing and I've created some really delicious juices that I even sell to people sometimes. That is good for the soul, good for the health and the skin and everything. So thank you all for joining tonight. Thank you, Thad, for coming on. Congratulations on your fight and your triumph over diabetes, which is killing people, right?
Definitely.
And
we have 315 million people around the world are diabetic.
Wow.
There are 24 million people in the United States diabetic. The scary part about it is there's another 84 million people in the United States right now that are either pre-diabetic or don't know that they're diabetic. I was told in that presentation that 1 in every 4 people will be diabetic in the year 2020. That's in a few months.
That's next year.
So I mean, you put 4 people in the room, one of them's going to be diabetic.
Wow.
So we're going to have to come back and pick up on this because I'm sure I have some more information that I would love to share.
Good. Well, thank you so much for coming, and thank you guys for joining again. Let's live change. Be the change you want to see. I'll be back next week. Love you.